Well, welcome back. Congratulations. I'm glad that there are this many people in the room. I was worried that we'd have like 2 people because nobody did homework and they were scared to come. So I'm glad that you came back. Today we are going to work on bringing all of this together. Today is more about your participation and audience participation and discussion than it is just listening to me. So hopefully you came prepared, and we've got it slated for an hour and a half, but we'll see how we do. We might get out of here, so it just depends on how chatty everybody is and how much information sharing happens. Just want to do a quick recap of our 7 kind of elements of the business plan and what we've gone through thus far. We did mission and vision last week, our financial analysis, our SWOT analysis. Today we are going to do our SMARTY goals. We're going to start working on pulling that together, working on turning those goals into a strategic plan with timelines and then with systems and processes to help you get there. So let's talk real quick about the recap. How'd everybody do on, I got this funny meme that somebody found for me because everybody's freaking out about punching numbers. Let's start with mission and vision. How'd you all do with mission and vision?
I Googled it, and even after reading several things, I couldn't tell the difference.
It's tough to tell the difference. I heard that from several people. They were struggling with telling the difference between mission and vision. And
so I started with the vision, and then I changed it to the mission, and then I changed it back to the vision.
at least you have something. How many others had that kind of challenge of where to go? The way that I said last week, and the way that I want you to think about this, because it can get really confusing. When you start Googling it, a lot of people kind of intermingle mission and vision and flip-flop on what they look like. For the purpose of this, I want you to think of vision as where you're going, your why, kind of the 50,000-foot view. The mission is how you get there, how and what you do. The vision is the why. So the vision is the big overarching why you do it. It's usually pretty short, succinct. And then your mission is the how and the what. Did anybody finish writing mission and vision and want to share? One or the other with the group? Anyone?
You guys should.
This is so
Okay,
good.
And did you share yours?
Yes.
Our vision statement is we value relationships over transactions while empowering people with the knowledge to make the best decisions when buying or selling a home.
That's awesome. Can you say it again louder?
We value relationships over transactions while empowering people with the knowledge to make the best decisions when buying or selling a home.
Very good. That's awesome.
Beats mine.
There's no right or wrong answer.
And then our mission statement was we listen, educate, empower, and offer creative solutions for our clients.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Does anybody else have one that they want to share? Janet?
My vision statement is providing an exceptional real estate experience to every client.
Perfect.
My mission is to be the real estate professional of choice for buyers, sellers, realtors, and highly talented professionals who value relationships over transactions, superior work, and community impact.
Very good. Very good.
You rock.
I like that. Can you say the mission again?
To be the real estate professional of choice for buyers, sellers, realtors, and highly talented professionals who value relationships over transactions, superior work, and community impact.
Very good. I like the community impact piece. Very, very good. Jace?
The one I finished.
Yes.
To listen and create solutions for the best real estate experience.
I like that.
And I ended up with that as the vision, but then, I'm leaving it as the vision.
Okay.
And then the mission was not finished yet, but my mission is to be the best agent I can be, current with real estate, continuing education, current market and stats, and make the experience enjoyable.
Very good. Very good.
but I'm not quite finished.
Yes.
with the mission. I'm gonna do.
Which is fine. I told several people that reached out that said that they're struggling with it or they're still kind of contemplating it. You don't have to have it done today, but start the process because it will help get your mindset in the right place as you start putting the plan together. The vision should be where you're going. The 50,000 foot view, here's what I want to be and why. The mission then is the how and the what. Anybody else want to share theirs? One or the other?
What I did when I was stuck, with the why, I started like listing reasons why I do it myself. And my top one was money. And activity with meeting new people, stay relevant, have a job with flexibility, be good for others, and contribute. And from that, I thought, what's the best thing I
Right.
can do?
How to wrap that all together into one.
Yeah. So
I think
I did the same thing with the mission, but it was just to give me bullet points to think about how I'm going to utilize those goals.
Very good. I think that the why for a lot of us in this room, when you think about the why you got into the business, it probably boils down to financial, correct? It's not because you want to write contracts at midnight and chase around earnest deposits. That was not your why getting into the business. It was financial. But why is it financial? What do you need money for? Why do you need money? Is it to be able to travel? Is it to be able to provide for your family? To put your kids through college, to give them a good education, to give them a good life. So as you think about your why, yes, it's financial, but go a little bit deeper. Why is the money important? What do you want to do with it? And then you really start digging down to what your purpose and what your why is. But yeah, I think and think about what attracted you to real estate. Why are you in the business? Beyond financial too. Okay, business analysis. The numbers. How many of you really struggled with the spreadsheet and with putting all the numbers in? I see hands going up like, yes, yes, yes. How many of you feel like you got it in a good place and you're have your arms pretty well around it? Quite a few of you, good. Very good. How many of you are still kind of struggling with even starting the process?
Honest.
Yeah, we want honest. You're not going to get dinged. I'm not giving out gold stars today. Sorry to disappoint you.
Cookies, maybe?
Yeah.
Christian, can I ask a question
Uh-huh.
on how people did this? So, probably like a lot of people, like I have a business credit card and everything, so that makes it simpler, like it's just all there. So do you, when you're looking at that spreadsheet, so say you bought something in October, but your credit card bill wasn't due until, how, and I don't think it matters because the numbers would be the same.
Right.
Do you track it in October or do you track it the month you pay the bill?
I usually put it in the month that I'm spending the money.
Okay, that's what I
Yes.
I mean,
When you know you have expenses.
right.
So like your dues
Right, you
For
know
the
you're gonna have to
association
have
are due
that money there.
tomorrow or today, I don't know what the date is.
Soon.
But you know that in December you have this bill due. You might put it on your credit card and not pay it until next month, but you know that this is an expense that's gonna happen. Does anybody have any tips? Carol, do you have a question or
Well, no, I was
comment
just
or?
gonna say, I didn't do it by the month at all, I just did an annual amount, because been in the business long enough to kind of know what the overall picture looks like.
Yes.
But sometimes, some years, it's just all over the board as to which month that might fall in.
Oh, yeah.
So, but it's pretty consistent year over year. So doing it on an annual was much easier.
And that, I think that's absolutely fine, and we talked about that. And if you know your annual number, you know about what it is, then it's fine to start with that number. We just want you to start with something, to have a good gauge, and not just guess, but have a good gauge based on history of what you're spending. Anybody else have any tips on what helped them as you went through this?
I did it the same way. I kind of went through what I did it by the year. I wasn't, because it's such our business is so variable,
Yes.
as far as when you're gonna get whatever it is that you're gonna get. And my understanding, I think, is that the ultimate goal, of course, is to how many phone calls, what I need to do to make that happen. So it wasn't gonna make as much of a difference what month it was. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes, no, that's right. That is right, yes. Anybody else have anything they want to share as they pulled stuff together on the spreadsheet? On what helped them or what challenges they had that they want to throw out there that maybe somebody can help you with? Anyone? I know, I think it was Nancy last week that talked about today discussing some tools, specific tools and apps. Is anybody using any apps or tools that they want to share with the group that track their business expenses, aside from just having a separate business account? I think that's a huge start, having either a separate business account or a singular credit card that you use for business expenses. Does anybody have an app or a tool that they use to help track business expenses and help make their life easier when the accountant comes calling? Mitch?
I just use the Mile IQ just to track miles.
Right.
I know there's other apps that, also track it, but I found that to be very easy. You can do it on a daily basis and track it on a daily basis. Swipe it left or right, whether it's a business expense or personal.
Uh-huh.
And you can send it to your email off your phone, and you can print a sheet out by the month. Then at the end of the year, you can say annual summary, and it tells you exactly how many business miles, and your accountant, or my accountant anyway, says that's good enough.
Yes, and I use the same app, Mile IQ. It's Mile, the letter I, Q, and I think, was it like $5.99 a month?
$5.99 a month.
Yeah, so it's huge time saver, huge time saver. Anybody else have any tools that they're using to track business expenses they want to share?
Do people use Quicken? Do you use Quicken?
I don't use Quicken.
Quicken.
QuickBooks? I don't,
Do you just use the spreadsheet?
yes. Anybody use Quicken or QuickBooks? Jana, the accountant back there?
I would start with it though. If you're looking for one, I think you said, start with like mint.com.
Yes.
It's free. Don't spend $80 a year or more on a system that you don't know how to use. I would start with Mint. A lot of my friends use it, and it's really, really simple.
I've heard really good things about that. Really good thing. I've heard it's very simple. It's not complex. Easy to use on a daily basis, weekly basis.
QuickBooks Self-Employed has an app that's free that tracks mileage, and it's only $5 a month. QuickBooks Self-Employed,
Okay. Oh, very good.
so it's very good for real.
So if you're using QuickBooks, it's a mileage tracker.
$5. It's a discount from the KCRAR. I think realtors get a discount.
Oh, very nice.
So
Very good.
it's QuickBooks Self-Employed. That way you get both. You get
Perfect,
your books
yeah.
and you get your app.
Nice.
You get the QuickBooks part too?
The self-employed. It's called QuickBooks Self-Employed.
Does it work if you have an LLC?
Very good.
If you have an LLC, you might want to do a different version of QuickBooks. It would work, but I wouldn't recommend it.
LLC?
I don't use Mint. I've only ever had friends use Mint for personal expenses.
Yeah.
But it's a good way to get started. I use Quicken, which allows you to have an LLC or business account.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Anything else, Rick?
Yeah, I use Security First planner, calendar that they hand out, and just log it in the morning. And I stop.
Kind of tells our age.
I do it. But I will attest to that, because when I was young and we had to stop at the gas station with my mom, she'd pull out her book, write down her mileage, write down how much she put in, the amount of money she put in cards, fill up the gas, religiously. Religious.
Still
You also
do.
still balance your checkbook. maybe.
And I keep a spreadsheet.
Yep.
Hey, if it works, why break it? It's not broken.
Exactly.
It's to our age.
I always say, use the system, find a system you will use. That's the best system for you. I can't stand up here and tell you, you gotta use this one. Find a system you will use. And if it's the Security First, jotting stuff down, use that. If it's a fancy app, use that.
Turn the calendar to your accountant at the end of the year.
No.
I'll tell you though, if you get audited and you have one of those calendars, it helps.
I
It
just have
helps to justify your stuff.
and then turn in my business cards.
Perfect. Perfect. Before we go to SWOT analysis, I want to talk about your analysis that you did on your past 3 years or so-ish, however you did it, of business. How many of you got your arms around that and felt good about it? Good. That should have been fairly easy to do. Any surprises as you started digging into your sources, to your type of clients? Anybody have any surprises? What'd you say? Aside from needing more.
I felt like it needed more choices, so I just made my own.
Good. That's what. Yeah. I want you to make
I
your own.
had depth a lot of times.
Yep.
And that doesn't work on.
I did that with empty nesters. I did it with empty nesters.
Oh,
Yeah.
did you?
I combined them, I combined.
We had somebody in the Blue Valley office that realized a lot of her business comes from. She was like, it's dead people. She used to work in a probate estate attorney's office, and she gets a lot of business from them. She's like, my biggest client base are people that are no longer with us.
How do you send thank you notes to them?
You don't. Good luck finding an answer.
People who are referring.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only thing that we questioned was people, like listing appointments we've been on that we haven't listed, but we are going to list in the coming year. So we didn't know whether the town voted against us or leave them out.
They're still working,
Yeah.
We're still working.
Okay.
but we
I
did,
wouldn't count them against you then.
So we just,
Yeah.
well, we did it both
They're
ways.
still open.
Counted against us and it didn't count at all.
No, I think that's good for
So that was the ratio business then with.
your closing
listing
ratio.
appointments
Yes.
You went on
Yes.
for buyers show.
That's something I haven't tracked. It's kind of, because you don't really have, you know, you have the closings and,
Right.
and the ones you're working on, but I don't really have the deal. I need a book of lost deals, I guess.
Yes.
No.
No.
Is anybody tracking that or have a good system to track that? Rick?
No, I just heard the tracking lost deals, which I did, just because I wanted to torture myself.
Right.
And it's eye-opening.
It is.
If you think your client base is strong, think again.
I agree.
Because everybody and their brother is out. If you're not there, you ain't getting it. I lost almost $3 million this year. That were my A clients.
Wow.
In my mind, obviously not.
So there's no for 8 points.
Was anybody else
Work on
surprised
it
when they
again.
started tracking the ones they didn't get?
Listing appointments you didn't get, or just houses that you saw that the
And
buyers sold?
clients that didn't come back.
Okay.
didn't fall.
And sometimes it's hard to track that because you don't even know that they didn't come back to you until you're getting ready to mail stuff
Well,
out.
yeah,
And
when you mail cards and it comes back, return to sender.
yeah. Yes.
One way to track
Does
business.
anybody have a system that they're using that they can share with the group on, like listing appointments they go on that they don't get, or buyers that they've schlepped around that decided not to buy?
We had to go to our calendar and look for the appointments and add them up, but I think this is a great exercise to keep a track record.
Yes. I'm going to show you, when we get into systems and processes, I'm going to show you a spreadsheet that I have that I've used in the past that I keep track of my dead canceled stuff. It's hard though, because if you go on a listing appointment and it never goes a whole lot further than the first appointment, what do you do to track that? Are you putting it on a spreadsheet? I had a file at one point that I called dead listings, or listing appointments, and I printed off the tax record and the previous MLS and would put them in there. And they might resurrect at some point, but I kept a file so I knew where I had been versus having to go back to a calendar and look at it. When we used Outlook, going backwards in Outlook was really hard. There's stuff from 3 months prior. So that's another way to do it is print off as you're going on listing appointments. Just print off one page or something, a tax record, something that you can stick in a file. Keep track of how many appointments. And same with buyers. With buyers, it's, I think, a little bit easier because if you're taking them out, showing them, you probably have some record of what you're showing them, and it's easier to track that. But very few people track that statistic for themselves. And I think it's eye-opening, like Rick said, when you start looking at what that ratio is, you think, oh, I'm probably 95, 100%. When you start looking at it, when you're talking 13 transactions maybe on the buying side and you lost one, you're at 90%. So it can be eye-opening. Anybody else surprises or challenges or something that was eye-opening to them as they did the 3-year transaction history and started sourcing things? Lisa?
I think I've done this for several years now, and it always amazes me to see, you think your business is coming from one place, but it's really, when you really look at the numbers and you see how many are past clients, how many are past client referrals, and then you track that from one year to the next, it's just every year I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize so many came from this source or that source. And then you look at, well, where am I spending my money and my time? It should be in this area, not in this area. And I think that's the single most helpful thing about this whole exercise is learning where your clients are coming from.
I think I agree with you. I think it is a key to this entire exercise. And I think it's eye-opening to a lot of people when they start looking at past transactions and their client base. I think every person that went through this in the Blue Valley office, and sorry I keep referring to them, but it's fresh, came back the second day and they were like, I was shocked. And they were shocked not just at where their business was coming from, but what type of clients they were working with. One of them was sure that her client base was going to be empty nesters because of her social groups and the neighborhood that she lives in, and it wasn't. It was something completely different. And it was eye-opening to her as she moves forward and starts working on her goals and working on her plan, where she needs to spend her time and where she needs to focus her efforts to really capitalize on where her business was coming from and what type of client she was working with. Was anybody really surprised?
I was surprised that I worked with, I thought all my buyers were mostly like move-up buyers, that were past clients, really for the bigger house. But worked with a lot of people moving here from out of town, and I was surprised by that because I don't do a lot of relo or anything like that. But there were referrals from my COI, my brother's moving from Hayes, or that kind of thing. So I was surprised to see that. Because I initially didn't think I worked with a lot of people relocating to the city.
Yeah.
Apparently I do. That was the bulk of
surprising
my buyers last year. So
very good. Now as you strategize for next year, you can figure out how do you capitalize on that. What strategies can you deploy or what systems can you deploy to help grow that piece of your business?
Like literally
and have resources available to those people that are in that segment.
Right.
If you realize you work with all first-time buyers, you might start looking at planning some seminars or doing some marketing to appeal and cater to first-time buyers. Anybody else want to share one?
I found a category that I didn't realize I had, which is helping some sellers get rid of rental properties. And you think about investment buyers, but I just, when I looked at them, I have a couple every year of people that wanted to get rid of their rental properties. And I thought, all right,
didn't know that was all right.
Yeah, so anyway.
Very good.
And on that vein, I think there's a second layer to the source of your business, because the business could be your past client, from your past client, but what's your relationship with that past client?
Yeah.
Are they in your social circle? Are they kids in school with your kids?
Yes.
Are they in some
Why
club
are they?
that you're in?
Yes.
So I almost think there's two sources.
I strongly agree with that. Strongly agree with that. As you look at your COI, I know a lot of people set up the source of those people. It's one thing to have 100 people on your COI, but where did those people come from? And that's the second layer of figuring out. And that too helps you figure out, where do you spend your time? Is it, if you're spending all your time volunteering for this one community organization and none of your intent or, the secondary intent of it is to serve the community, but also, to develop relationships, and those relationships are not income producing for you, do you need to reorganize your time and maybe your focus?
Going through my COI and realized that one of my projects for this year is to edit it.
people that I haven't talked to or haven't not got back to me for a long time to just edit it and figure out some new folks to put in there to replace, so.
Very good.
I came across some names and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't been over for 5 years. Maybe they're dead.
They might be.
Yeah, I updated mine and found one had a for sale sign in their yard.
Yeah.
It wasn't mine.
Right. It's one of those like knife in the chest.
Yeah.
No, what about with the pop
Gotcha.
ride? The first pop ride that I did?
Was to somebody, there was another sign in the yard.
Oh.
It's like, okay.
That's a good way to get started.
Yes. That's
Oh.
good motivation. Good motivation. Linda?
Is the spreadsheet, the business planner spreadsheet locked, so you can't add any more tabs? I can't seem to add anything
Let me
more.
go, we're gonna go in here because I want to show you something that I had skipped over that actually Linda had brought up last week and, oh, wait a minute, I'm trying to use a mouse on my. Come on. I apologize, whenever I screen share, my computer seems to get 10 times slower. Yeah, I can't add tabs either.
You can't.
Yeah, what you can do is just take the whole thing and copy. You could copy the pages individually and put it on
Something else.
another spreadsheet,
Okay.
but yes, it is locked. So on the second tab, your goal tab, if you're a solo agent using this tab, at the bottom, now that you've gone through, let's see if I make this a little bit bigger. Now that you've gone through and figured out your source of business, you can go through this exercise. Did anybody get to this point on the second tab and try to do this? Good, good. I'm glad I didn't go through it last week, but I wanted to highlight it today if you want to go back through this. So this can break down for you where you should spend your time and energy with each source. So if you went through and did your last 3 years of transactions and you might just have 3 main sources of business, you might have 4. This allows you the opportunity to put in your top 4. This pre-populates, but you can change it to your SOI, and you might break down the subcategories within your SOI. So you might have your source of business from your PTO involvement, that's all part of your SOI, and your source of business from the rest of your COI. If there's a really strong second subcategory within your COI, I would break it down further and not just do a COI. You might also break it down. There are probably people on your COI that have never bought and sold from you, but are acquaintances or good friends that just haven't had real estate needs. So you might break it down by people that are truly past clients you've done business with, and those on your COI that you've not done business with. Does that make sense? So as you figure out, and now that you know this, where your source of business is, you can add these into this spreadsheet. You can now put in there the closings that you've had from, and this is just purely example, I put numbers in here. Remember, anything blue on here you can edit. But your closings from the previous year from this source, across this line, and then approximate unique contacts. That's hard to quantify, really hard to quantify. I put in here, what I put in here is approximate unique contacts. So I put the total number of people that might be in your SOI. So there might be 110 people in that group. If you have a subcategory within your SOI that's maybe your PTO involvement, you would then figure out how many people in my SOI are in there because of that involvement, and that's your unique contact number. Your FSBOs, if you're calling, I don't know how many of you call FSBOs, but if you're doing that and you know that you're calling 5 of them a week, you can quantify that pretty easily. Open houses, that's hard to quantify. This is unique contact, not how many open houses you've held. So if you were holding 2 open houses a month, and you were averaging about 10 people that came through that you conversed with, you could come up with a pretty rough number on how many unique contacts that was to close your 4 transactions that you did last year from open houses. The spreadsheet then uses these numbers to figure out what your conversion ratio is. And then you put in here your goal. So if my goal next week is to have 80% of my business come from this source, you put this in, and then it's gonna tell you how many transactions you need from that source. And it's gonna break it down even further there, and how many additional unique contacts you need from this source. So I need to put 11 people, new people, that I need to have in my SOI. And then how many new contacts I need to add per day. What's that?
I was wondering how I was gonna get 300 new relationships. So
Yeah.
the population of the.
So your total contacts needed in there is then 121, and I'm already at 110. Those numbers can get a little fuzzy. I don't necessarily, my thought process on this is I'm not gonna pay real close attention to these numbers down here. I'm gonna use it as a guideline. But what I wanna know is how many transactions, these are the important numbers to me. If I want 80% of my business to come from that source, how many transactions is that? And do I have enough people then in there to get those 22 transactions?
So I also use the business tracker, the Ninja business tracker. So I've kind of got my plan or my funnel,
right,
for 2019 of what, at least, you know, maybe the first half of what I expect, things I know that are working on. So I use those numbers to put in the goal of next year's business, kind of based on, okay, I know I got these 3 here and these 2 here and that kind of thing.
Very good.
Doesn't that make sense to do it that way?
It does make sense. It does make sense. It also makes sense to do it the other way and start with this, and then you go to your Ninja tracker and figure out, okay, I need 22 transactions, and right now for the first 6 months, here's what I have in my pipeline. I probably need more people in the pipeline. How am I gonna get them in there? What am I gonna do? And that's when we start going to the SMARTY goals and the strategic plan to figure out how you were gonna get the contacts. So that's kind of our next step here, is to pull together all of the pieces that you have done at this point and pull them together into how we use that information then to do a plan for next year. So let's talk about, we're going to move on now to SMARTY goals and get into how we are going to pull all of this together. Before we do that, one thing, and we'll spend maybe 5 minutes talking about this, but I want to talk about how you did on the SWOT analysis. I forgot that piece of your homework before I skip forward. How did we do on the SWOT analysis?
Good.
Good? Now we're doing your strengths, your weaknesses,
Didn't get to that.
opportunities, and your threats. If you didn't get to it, it's fine. We're going to use those pieces now as we start goal planning. We're going to use the numbers from the spreadsheet. Those become important, but you're also going to use the SWOT analysis to come up with your strategies and your action plan for 2019. Rick?
Some of my strengths also showed up on my weaknesses.
That's normal.
Okay.
That's good. That's good. Do you want to share what any of those are?
No.
Well, fine then.
Example.
This is a, well,
Fine.
okay, for instance, one of the strengths that I listed was my experience. I think that can also be a weakness sometimes.
Complacency.
In some situations. Energy level can go either way.
Right?
Those were probably the 2 biggest ones. The others were definitely defined in one sense or another.
Very good. Let's talk about.
When you think about it, I mean,
Yeah,
just
they can be, because a strength of yours might be your social activities and involvement. That could also be a weakness, right? You're involved in too many things. I say yes too much. It's good that I'm involved in all of this stuff, but maybe I need to pare back a little bit. Anybody want to share any of the strengths? Let's talk about strengths and weaknesses first before we talk about opportunities and threats. This was like gut check time, writing down strengths and weaknesses. If you did do this, how many had an easier time doing weaknesses than strengths? Most people have an easier time picking themselves apart, being nitpicky than they do saying what they're good at. It's hard to write down what you think you're really good at. Anybody else want to share anything they wrote? I know it's a tough one because it's personal. Let's talk about opportunities and threats. What opportunities do you see? Do you have an opportunity to work with more dead people?
People die all the time.
Yes. Okay, that's an opportunity. If you went through your business transaction history, one of your opportunities might be a niche that you didn't know you had, right? Anybody want to share any opportunities that they put down or that they can think of? Rick?
For me, my age, Rick too, yes. I've never really focused or had my mind on baby boomers. I'm a baby boomer. All my friends are baby boomers. It's a huge group that is downsizing, right sizing, exactly. And that, it's amazing just looking at that from that angle and then having those kind of conversations. Because the kids are now going out of school, kids are getting married. When it creates an opportunity within that, it's also the kids, the first time buyers. So that's been a real eye opener just over this last few months.
That kind of secondary.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably going to move to the top of my list as far as where my business is going to come from.
Oh yeah. That's a huge opportunity. Huge opportunity. Anybody else have opportunities that they feel like they can capitalize on in 19? Nancy?
Well, I would like to try to work on, I've always been trying to do FISBOs, but I'm gonna make that something that I really try to do this year.
Perfect.
And some open houses. I've been doing such well with open houses. Jessica.
That's good, that's a perfect
Make
opportunity.
myself try to do those, although I used to sit in new home subdivisions and sit the open houses all day long. I thought, oh, I'll never do this again, but
That was all day.
that was all day.
Every day.
I'll tell you who has the open house thing down is Jessica Bauer.
Yeah.
And
Yes, she does.
she can't be here, she couldn't be here this morning, she's got a sick kiddo. But she is going through, and I hope she doesn't mind that I pick on her and tell her. She's going through Buffini right now, and we share with the Buffini group that she has, it's a pretty large transaction, but somebody she met at an open house within the last month that is, she has their house under contract and they're under contract to buy a new house. And it's somebody that she met in November at an open house. That's quick business. Very quick business.
I mean, coming from retail, it was a great way. And you know, I say all the time, you know, this time of the year, I used to have to work on, 65, 70 hours a week to sit in an open house for a couple of hours on a Sunday. It takes an hour to get ready and maybe an hour to be the other. It's a blessing. It's so easy. And you make those connections and it feels good, because you're there, you're helping someone.
Right.
And not everybody appreciates you, and that's okay. But, you can tell who's good, who needs, like there's kids, that ain't from out of town that don't have someone, that want to go from point A to point B. Why shouldn't I be the one to help them?
Right.
And grow my business. I think for me, it's very, it feels logical and smooth and it's easy.
Well, the other thing about opens is you have somebody walking into a listing that wants to buy a house, that's looking to buy a house. It may not be the one you're sitting in, but these are people that want to buy.
They're pretty warm.
I mean,
yeah.
It's just like you could go through your COI and nobody wants to buy, but here's somebody walking into a listing. So it's a good idea to do it.
Yes.
And make sure you look good to your seller too.
Yes. Does help. Helps tremendously. Anybody else have any other opportunities like that they want to share? What about threats? Again, threats are sometimes easier to do than opportunities. What are some of your threats? Nancy?
So my biggest threat is shiny things.
It's a big one.
Great idea what I'm gonna do today, the night before I write down what all I need to get done. And I get into the office and there will be a shiny thing or something else that comes up and I'm gone.
Somebody to chit chat with or, yeah. Yes. Carol?
Back time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, time management, that's a huge one. Huge one.
For those of us who are getting older, knees and surgery and health.
Yes.
Stamina,
Time off.
like Rick talked about.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yes.
Energy's different.
One of your threats might be or opportunities could be that you want to retire. And you need a plan to do that. If you don't have a plan to do that, that's going to go on your threat, probably on your threat list or your weakness list. That I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to be done in 24 months. How am I going to get there? And then that transfers over into our goals and strategies. Anybody else have anything they want to share from their SWOT analysis? How many of you did not quite get to it, be honest? Very good. I knew that there was a lot thrown at you. I'm glad that you did pieces of it. There were maybe 2 or 3 people that I thought would get the whole thing done. So you're not in trouble. This is your plan. This is your work in progress. I just want to give you the tools to do it. Rick?
On that last thing on the threats, I think if you look at those colored squares, I think those are some important notes.
Yes.
To make you think, because one of the threats that I had listed is the economy. And what you can and can't control is, I think, something that y'all need to consider whenever you're looking at your one at the bottom of what can you do different to minimize the negative impact of the threat. I think in here, it's probably pretty easily explained, but I think everybody has this one nailed, is just the attitude that you get.
Oh yeah. Attitude is huge. Attitude is huge, and it's how your perspective and how you look at things and how you look at your threats. Do you look at the threats as an opportunity? Because many of them are. Many of the things that you have as threats are also opportunities. There's an opportunity for growth there. And I think it's important to put down things that you can't control. You can't control interest rates. Are those going to be a threat to your business next year? Probably so. Probably so. It's also an opportunity. What can you do to educate buyers and sellers on how they need to prepare for rising interest rates? How can you be a resource for them? Are you going to let them listen to the news and read national publications that say that the sky is falling? Or are you going to be a resource of information for them, tell them why it's not, and tell them how they can take advantage of where interest rates are right now? It's an opportunity and it's a threat, and it's a way for you to become a resource for people in the real estate world. But you need to look at, and you can't do anything about interest rates. There's not a darn thing that you can do about them. But you can help the public and help your clients, help your SOI, help the people you're in touch with understand them and understand what it means for them. All right. Once you have all of this together, you can then move into the really meat and why you're here, and that is setting the goals. And not just setting the goals, but also setting the path to get to the goals. We're going to talk about, this is the perfect way to say that, a goal without a plan is just a wish. It is, I said this last week and I'll say it again, it is one thing to stick a goal up on a sticky or on a sheet of paper. It is a whole other thing to have a plan to get you to the goal. When you finish with this process, I want you to have a full plan that is not just a piece of paper stuck on your office wall, but it's a plan that you go back to, that you keep yourself accountable to, that you work on your time management from, you work on sharpening your skills from. All of this is a living, breathing, and it's going to be a moving target. There are going to be some things that you write down in the next couple of weeks on here that are going to have to be pushed to the wayside because something major comes up. You get sidetracked. But go back to the plan. There's a reason that you're doing this. It's so easy, like the shiny object. That is probably one of the biggest threats to everybody in the real estate industry is a shiny object. And the latest and greatest technology tool, and the latest and greatest this. And here's another app for you to use. And here's, something else for you to use. But you have to find a way to stay focused. And hopefully this plan will help you next year stay focused and be able to go back to the reason that you're doing this, go back to your mission and vision, go back to the strategic plan here and get yourself recentered when you get off track. Because we're gonna get off track. It's gonna happen. You're human. So SMARTY goals. I know a lot of you have done SMART goals. I found this that added the Y to it. So SMART is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, actionable, realistic is important, time specific, very important, and then the why are you doing this? Why is that your goal? And you have to remind yourself of that when you start setting these. They have to be specific. You can't just say, I want to do more business next year, that's my goal. What does that mean? Does that mean more transactions? Does it mean more volume? More running around dropping off earnest deposits? What does that mean? What does that mean? Measurable. You have to be able to set a goal that you can measure and track your results and track your progress. You do that by making them time specific. Actionable. It's pretty self-explanatory. Realistic. I'm not saying to be Debbie Downer. It drives me nuts when people, well, my goal is just to do as much as I did this year. That might be your goal, and that's okay. If that's realistic for you, that's fine. It would be unrealistic. Make sure they're not unrealistic, because you will end up frustrated and deflated if you have never done a $30 million year. Let's say you're a $6 to $8 million producer, and your goal next year is to do 30 million. You better have a really good plan, or you are going to end up frustrated, and the goal is going to get thrown, the plan is going to get thrown in the trash because you have no way of getting there. So make sure they're realistic for you. Don't overcommit yourself to, I'm going to lead generate, I'm going to do 30 calls a day. That is probably not realistic. I'm going to do 4 open houses a week, and I'm going to do 2 every Saturday and 2 every Sunday. Probably not realistic, because life happens. If you're doing that many open houses, then you'll have buyers and sellers. And then you can't do that many open houses. Make sure they're realistic. Make sure that they are specific, measurable, time specific, and then always go back to the why. Always go back to why is that a goal? Why is that important? So as we start setting these kind of go back to the SWOT analysis. I said that you're doing all of these pieces that you've been doing the last week and that you're going to continue to do to bring them all together for your goals. This really outlines why we did the SWOT analysis and how you're going to use that as you set your goals and why you did the business analysis. So you've now figured out where the majority of your business is coming from. So what can you do to maximize that? How can you exploit that segment? How can you capitalize on that segment of your business? These are just things I want you to think about as you're setting your goals. How can I maximize my strengths to hit my goals? What am I doing right that I need to be doing more of? What, as you look at your weaknesses, are there things that you can do to improve those and move them over to the strength category? Or are there things that you can do to strategize around your weaknesses? And then how can you incorporate the opportunities and the threats into your goals?
Can you bring that up for just a second? Yeah.
Everybody good? Okay, hold my other picture. All right, so on the next slide, I may or may not have borrowed this from another company. At least I didn't use their colors. But I thought as I was pulling all of the elements together in this class, for this class, I pulled together pieces that I saw from other business planning classes, other business planning curriculum, to kind of ring fence it all together to come up with the best way to do this. And this was probably one of the best ways to really break down a goal and make sure that it falls within those SMARTY criteria. So the concept is 1-3-5 when you set goals. The 1 stands for a one main goal. This is a big goal. This is your big one. You might only have 1 for next year. You might have 2, you might have 5. One of these goals might be a business goal. It might be the number of transactions you want to do. It might be your total volume. This is your big nut, the big one. That right now today might seem unrealistic, but then you're gonna have a plan to get there. We don't want it too far gone. And you might have a personal goal. I know one of the gals that went through this has 3 goals for next year, and 1 is her business, 1 is her health, and the 3rd goal is her husband. And she came into my office this week in tears, happy tears.
Getting one or getting rid of one?
I'm not going any further.
Is that the dead thing?
Yeah, no, that is not the lady that works with the dead people. But she came to my office this week and she goes, oh my gosh, having broken down the goals the way the 1-3-5 method, she goes, my days and weeks are now playing out for me. Yes, stuff comes up. Yes, I'm gonna, my time gets hijacked, but my days are pretty much set. I don't even have to think about it. I'm on autopilot. She goes, I was gonna wait until January to start implementing all this stuff, but she goes, I started last week, and she goes, it's changed my outlook and my attitude every day when I get up.
Can you give an example? Are you gonna give an example?
Yes, we're gonna go through an example. So you've got the main goal. The 3 concept is you're gonna create 3 strategies to achieve it. We're gonna go through an example here in a minute, so I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on this slide. And then the 5 is 5 tactics to complete each strategy. Okay?
So is this for, well, I guess I'll wait till I ask the question. Is it business and personal?
It can be business or personal.
Or can it be both?
It can be both.
Okay.
It can be both. So the way I have these laid out in your workbooks are very similar to what I'm going to put up here on the screen. You have your big main goal, your strategies, and then underneath 5 tactics. Some of these strategies, you might have 10 tactics. Some of them you might only have 3. I want you to try to focus on getting at least 5 tactics for each of these. This is hard. This is not as easy as it looks, because as you start doing the strategies, you realize, wait a minute, that could be a goal. Because I have sub-strategies, and I've got sub-tactics, and it gets really, you can get really down in the weeds and go down a rabbit hole with this. Go back to the big main goal, and go back to the why. So let's look at an example. I put up there, don't forget to incorporate timelines. You're going to incorporate timelines into all of these. So here's an example of what it might look like. So my big main goal is 22 closed transactions. That's what I want to do next year. How am I going to get there? What do I need to be doing to get there? What are my strategies? How am I going to use my strengths? How am I going to strategize around my weaknesses? Where are the opportunities that I can capitalize on? So one of my strategies might be consistent contact with my COI. That's one of my weaknesses. I get sidetracked. I don't have consistent contact with my COI. Going back to the page 2 on that spreadsheet, I wanted to do 80% of my business next year. I think is what was on there from my SOI, from my COI. How am I going to do that? The tactics. This is where you get down to the nitty-gritty, the daily, weekly tasks that you need to do to get there. 10 handwritten notes a week. Develop a monthly e-newsletter to send out. Invest in a CRM. It's where systems and processes come into play. This is when we did the SWOT analysis, the tools. I think on a couple of those boxes on the side, what tools and systems are you using that play to your strengths? What tools, systems could you be using to help with your weaknesses? If I had a really good CRM, this might not be one of my weaknesses, because it would do everything for me.
Speaking of CRMs, what's everybody using?
How many of you use an Excel spreadsheet or a CRM you've created on your own in your Outlook, Gmail, or Excel? About a third of the room. How many pay for a CRM monthly? What products are you using?
Wise Agent.
Wise Agent?
Exact.
Which one?
The Exact?
Contactually.
Contactually.
What was it, Wise Agent?
Wise Agent, Exact, Contactually.
Some people in our office are using the
Mm-hmm.
after.
Yes, Buffini has a CRM. Anybody using another product?
I'm using the market leader greenhouse.
Yes.
They kind of screwed it over here this last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Jane was telling me the challenges.
Yeah.
Does anybody know anything about Infusionsoft?
Did you say confusion?
Infusionsoft?
I know about confusion when it comes to CRM.
Yeah,
Yes, I do.
that's my new one.
I've not heard of that. Is that what you're using or looking
No,
at? RealVolve is one that I've used in the past that I really like. It's called RealVolve. It's also a business tracker. It's one of the few that I have found that pull in your business tracking and a CRM into one platform.
What are you using now?
I went back to my Excel spreadsheet because at the time, this is before we switched to Gmail when I was using RealVolve, and I couldn't, the way that our email server was set up, I couldn't send emails directly from it, so it was.
Is RealVolve a cost?
There is a cost to it, yes.
What are the costs involved with the others that were mentioned?
I would say on average, from what I hear, about $20 a month.
Wasn't it 50?
Some are a little bit less, some are a little bit more.
53 a month.
And there's different levels on all of these CRMs.
But, you made the comment that just if you have a CRM, then you already got it all together. That's really not true because there's this middle ground. You might have the CRM, be paying for the CRM.
You're using it.
But are you using it all the time, Like I use it some and then I go in spurts. And I have to use it for a little while when I get real busy, then so.
So your tactic, a tactic for somebody like that, you might have a CRM, but you're not using it to its full capability. So your tactic might be
Improved.
to,
Use it more.
use it to its full
Consistently.
capacity.
Does Zap work as a CRM?
Zap can work as a CRM, yes. Yes, it can. It can. Absolutely. Yes, ish.
When you say you have an Excel spreadsheet, what does your Excel spreadsheet look like in?
It's more than a mailing list. A mailing list is not a CRM. It's not. A mailing list is great if you're gonna do labels. It's not great for a CRM. I have tabs on mine for the subcategories. I have one master that really serves as my mailing list. And then I have subcategories for where those people came from. My big groups. If they're a high school, college friend. If I've connected with them through board involvement, if, where they've come from. And then it breaks down their address information. I have on their last contact. It breaks down even further. There's a ton of detail on there, but it breaks down. I've got birthdays, anniversary, house anniversary date. I know kids' names. You can get really, really detailed as far as what information you want to collect. And some of it, You might say, I'm never gonna send them a birthday card, I don't need to collect that information. If you want every piece of information, you might create additional columns. But then there's the marketing stuff that I do, what they get, because not everybody is treated as an A client. Not everybody gets a Christmas gift. I'd be broke. But then I've got columns with X's in it as far as how I market to them. It's very convoluted. There's some times where it works great for me, and there are other times where I get busy and I'm not updating it like I should be, and then I have to spend hours to go back in and update it.
Yep.
Does not matter what system you use.
But
Make sure you use it. Just pick one that you'll use.
The CRM should do more than just be spreadsheets. If you're paying for a service, I mean, it sends me reminders. It sends me, here's who you need to call today, or what you need to do today, and that kind of stuff.
And that's the piece that I miss from using an Excel spreadsheet. And the reason that I might want to invest in a CRM is because I need it to do more. And I need to set up automatic emails, and I need to be able to set up stuff that I can, when I have 3 hours of time, I can go in and set up for the rest of the quarter what needs to go to who when.
The monthly newsletter seems hard for me. I've had that on my list for 3 years and haven't gotten it done.
It's a tough one. There's a pretty decent one that gets sent out from Greenhouse. The content in it is really good. It's just, it's convoluted to go in there and customize it if you really want it to look right. You gotta customize it. The template.
It's super easy.
Yeah.
The template on.
Just use, I use the
Greenhouse?
Greenhouse for a lot of my marketing because I'm not creative at all. And they, it's not, unfortunately, it's not market specific, so it's not like, hey, what's going on in Kansas City today?
Right.
But rather it's kind of big picture, like, hey, here's a trend, or that type of thing. And it looks professional, so I use the Greenhouse a lot.
Is that for email or?
That's email, but you can print it too.
You can print it too.
You can print it too. Karen Baum prints it. If you want to see examples, Norma, Karen's got a bunch of examples because she prints it on occasion and uses it. Anything else on CRMs that somebody wants to add or challenge or something they found that's been helpful? Next one is host true client appreciation events. Guess what I now have to do? Go back to the stupid spreadsheet and put in there, I need a budget for that. I need to make sure if I'm gonna host 2 client events, I need to estimate what that cost is gonna be and probably go back and add that to my budget.
So what is that event? What are you referring to?
A pie party would be a great example.
A pie party?
A pie party, which a couple people, I don't think there's anybody in the room that did it.
Very successful pie party.
You've done one before. Around Thanksgiving, you invite past clients and your network to come in and pick up pies. You give them a free pie before Thanksgiving. I've seen a ton of posts recently about real estate agents and teams that have posted like the Santa, like a breakfast with Santa, and they're taking pictures, photo opportunities with the Santa. What a great opportunity to get your past clients and get in front of them and do something for them.
A movie afternoon?
Yes. Rent out a movie theater. It could be last year there was a group from our office that did a big, they had blow-ups and they had a bunch of food trucks that came out. They had a face painting thing, a balloon artist. They did it in the parking lot of our office. It was free. The space was free. They had to pay for some of the entertainment stuff.
How did they, so when they picked the office, how did they exclude it to just their clients? Or I mean, did they feel funny about?
They opened it up to anybody in the office that wanted to do it and invite their client base.
Oh.
And each agent that was involved had to pay a certain amount of money.
Oh, so they did a group.
To split it up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But
There's.
they also have their presentation. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like, that you're not gonna have.
Yeah.
But you're splitting the cost.
You're basically splitting the cost, combining resources. You might have a spring party for, an end of school summer kickoff party for your neighborhood. When they open the pool, if you live in a neighborhood that has a pool, when they open it, contact your HOA. Offer to host a big pool party. You bring in I wouldn't recommend providing the alcohol because you could get in some trouble. But come in and provide the food.
I do.
Or snow cone truck is a good idea.
I do sponsor the ice cream truck at my neighborhood party every year.
Very good.
They like that. But I can't say I've gotten a lot of business from it. So
Well, yeah.
recognition,
What was
brand
that?
awareness. I mean, I have an ice cream truck that comes to the block party each year. I sponsor that.
Be aware of who lives in your neighborhood though.
Yeah.
Tamara Tricky lives behind me.
Right.
So I would hesitate to do that.
Yes.
Well, there's gonna be another agent in almost every neighborhood.
There is.
Well, I guess
There
more
is.
established, like, Tamara does a lot of business, and I would hesitate to think, but then again, Kayla Courtney comes and farms my neighborhood.
Yeah, she farms in mine too, so you know, what can you do? That doesn't mean you shouldn't still do your thing.
Yes.
Not everybody.
I had, I was at something a couple years ago and there was an agent, a group in Chicago. And one of the things that his wife does is she will go online about this time of year and start making Valentine's Day reservations. She'll use Open Table and start gobbling up Valentine's Day reservations at all the top spots in the city. Then guess what she does? This is free. Free.
You can
Then
only
guess
make
what
one
she does?
reservation at a time or it's out. You can't have
I've been able to go in and make multiples.
You can pick up the
What does she do?
Then she contacts her clients and says, hey, I have a reservation at Capitol Grill 7 o'clock on Valentine's Day. Would you like that? Do you want a reservation? We're like, yes.
Do that for
That's a
restaurants.
free one.
Call the husbands, because you know they're playing something.
Anybody else?
That was a good one.
And you'd be like, yes, you just saved me.
Yes,
Okay.
call the
But
husband.
that, they reach out to like the male clients and say, hey, did you forget to make a Valentine's Day? I've got a reservation for you.
Yeah.
And then if they have any leftovers, they'll post on Facebook and say, hey, anybody else that wants, who wants these.
But yeah, if you do it on Open Table, you can't do it all yourself. You'd have to call them.
There's a way around it. There's a way around everything. The other thing on here is I need to do 4 coffee lunches per month. Some of these are simple. Some of these are going to take me more time. But the tactics should be what you need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. They should be activities and quantify them. Remember, measurable, actionable, quantify them. If I just put on tactics, I need to take more people to lunch, I need to get in front of them more, what does that mean? All of a sudden it's June and I'm like, oh yeah, I had that down as a tactic. I probably need to start doing that. Whereas now, I have 4 times a month I need to be doing it. That means I need 1 a week. That's easy. That's easy. That goes in my planner then every week. Need to have lunch next week with somebody, or coffee. It's easy to stay on track when you break these down. Some of these are not going to be able to be broken, like invest in a CRM or use a CRM. That's going to be ongoing. It's going to be hard to quantify that, but it is a tactic.
Actually, some of the CRMs, the Contextually CRM gives you a grade on how you're doing with your contacts.
That's scary.
It is.
I don't want one. I would prefer not to have one. So second strategy, second big thing might be that I need to expand my COI and my networks. It's easy to say, okay, I need more people, right? I need more people because I've got to get to 22 transactions. Break it down further. How am I going to get more people? What am I going to do? How am I gonna use the stuff I'm good at? If I am not a social person, how am I gonna overcome that? If I don't have time to go join a bunch of organizations, how am I gonna overcome that? What things do I need to start doing or tools I need to start using to be able to add more people and overcome my threats and my weaknesses?
I have a question about the current COI, because I've been listening to Buffini and listening to some of the other people, keeping that COI at a reasonable number. You don't want 1,000 people in your COI.
You do.
Or you do want 1,000 people in your COI, and, evaluating it every year. So as far as, is expanding and evaluating, and like some people just become Ds.
Oh, yeah.
They just fall off.
Yeah.
So I guess it's making it, do you have a number that would be reasonable, or is that really a personal?
That's more of a personal thing. It really depends. I mean, that's a person-to-person thing. But I do think it's important every year to go into whatever your contact, whether it's a spreadsheet or a CRM, to go in every year and to evaluate and to make sure you're labeling people. Like I have on mine the different columns, different people get different things. There's a column that grades my CRM, my A people, my B people, my C people, and my D people. And you've got to go in and constantly massage that, because a C person, the minute they send you a referral, they're going to A. They're getting a gift. They need to be getting stuff from me every month. They need to be on this list for me. But it's a constant, the CRM, it is not a crock pot. It is not set it and forget it. You have to go in, it's constant management. Carol?
All I was gonna say is, and undoubtedly, I need to expand my COI to increase my business. But I would say consistently from the get-go, over the last 13 years or so, I've had 115 to 125 people on my core COI. And there are people on that list that, between them and other family members that are on the list, give me 5 or 6 transactions every year. So those are the people I concentrate on, because those are the people that are going to pass my name along. But you do get to the point where, okay, now I need to move forward.
Right, I need to get more people up there on that top tier.
Right. But that's what's worked for me as far as focusing on 125 people.
Right.
Or
you can't focus,
couples, I should say.
You can't focus on 125 people. That's tough.
But
it's hard, but
I'm pretty consistent with what I do with those 125 people.
Which is,
so my goal.
But then do you do special stuff for the top, the ones that are sending you business, or that are?
They're all special.
Of course they are.
I mean, it's probably 10 of those.
So are you saying that 125 are the people that are all sending you business?
They're the ones that are constantly sending me my name to other people.
So that's your A.
So they're, 125 people, 10 of them are all in the same family.
Okay.
But they're giving my name to other people.
Yeah.
But you also have the people that fall off because they moved from here to Washington, D.C., or they're not really on your COI anymore at that point. So you're taking those people off.
Yes.
But, I mean,
Completely?
They might hope somebody in there.
I'd be careful with that.
Well, I mean, these are people that are not connected to Kansas City or coming back. So
you can get a referral if they buy another house in DC.
Oh yeah, I worked that in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That's what I. So I guess I'm asking what is everybody else doing that I can improve that? I guess.
Improve. I guess I'm
I mean,
confused by your
it's
question.
working.
Okay.
It's working, but I'm stagnant in the business. I'm staying at the same volume every year. So apparently, I'm not doing something right.
What percentage of that 125 can you attribute to transactions that you did last year? Is it 100% of them?
Well, there's some new people.
Okay.
But yeah.
I would break down that 125 into even smaller categories.
Okay.
And then start doing extra things for those the people that you know are your raving fans, that are anytime real estate comes up in a discussion, your name's the first one out of their mouth. And do extra things for them. Do the pop buys for them, do the gifts for them, take them, get belly to belly with them, take them out to coffee, take them out to lunch. And then work on that next group of people doing those same things to move them up. Anybody else have a suggestion for Carol? Erin?
Well, most of my business comes from my COI as well, and with expanding my current COI, I know I need to do that next year as well, but when I was sitting here thinking about it, it's not so much, I think, what do I have, like 200 in mind? And I trim it a lot, and keep it up to date, because we send a lot of things, I don't want to spend money sending these people stuff who, left. But expanding my current COI, I think, is going to be less about, I want to add another 50 people. I maybe only want to add 5 to 10, but I want to make sure that I meet 5 to 10 people that are really connected, that are go-getters, that are going to send my name out. And I started to do a little bit of that last year, like I really pinpointed, I want to expand my COI with these 3 to 4 people, and I really kind of, focused on them, and they ended up sending me business. Like what you were saying about your, if you're mostly going to work with empty nesters, find 5 new empty nesters for your COI that you feel like are real, outgoing people that are going to introduce you to more, instead of trying to find 50 more people to add to your mailing list.
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
It's not, COI is not always quantity, it's quality. You might have 500 people on your COI, but if none of them are sending you business,
yeah,
is that really a COI, or is it a mailing list? I agree with that. That's a really smart way to look at expanding a COI, to do a very targeted approach and figure out, and that helps too, to know where your business is coming from, to say, okay, how do I add more people like Jane that sent me X amount of transactions? How Jane's connected with all of these organizations, how do I add more Janes? Versus I'm just gonna have 25.
Right.
For those of us who need to hone down our list, like Nancy was talking about, I would be in touch with some of them, except I don't, in the day where most people don't have landlines. Is there like a way to find somebody's cell number? I tried to Facebook a lot of people, but not everybody does, like my age doesn't Facebook.
Right.
Or,
I have not found a good resource to stalk people's cell phone numbers. Does
Or
anybody,
emails.
does anybody have a good resource for that?
There isn't.
Didn't think
There
so.
isn't. Unless you can get a hold of somebody that they know.
Okay.
You can buy stuff on.
I told them register, they've got it.
You can buy them, but
Just so many people only have the one number now. So many people just have the one number. So if you do look them up, then it is sometimes their cell.
Yes. Yep.
And if you message them on Facebook or on LinkedIn or something and ask them for their cell, then,
Yes.
they might give
And you
it.
might just say, I'm updating my.
Yeah, I've done that, but a lot of them, they don't do LinkedIn, they're retired.
Right.
They don't do Facebook.
It's an excuse to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Call them and say, if their home phone still works.
Yeah, I tried that. I still have a white pages in my office.
You're the one.
I am one. It is so tattered, you wouldn't believe it.
I'm gonna click through these really fast. We've got about a little bit over 10 minutes to go. We still have some stuff to get through. Not a ton, but a little bit of stuff to get through. Does everybody, is it starting to make sense on how to do the goal setting? The 1-3-5 method. Start with the big goal. What are the strategies? The tactics that is your roadmap. That is how do you get to the end. Start with the end in mind. We've all heard that, right? How do you get there? That's in your tactics. That's how you start then backing into your time management. What activities do you need to be doing on a weekly basis to make sure that all these tactics are happening? And like I said, you might only have 3 tactics for one of the strategies. You might do this and realize that one of your tactics needs to be a strategy, or one of your strategies really needs to be moved to a goal. Setting time frames is really important. Take your tactics and put a deadline on them. Start using the tactics to time block every week. If I know that I need to do 10 handwritten notes a week, when am I doing that? What tools can I use to start time blocking and make sure that those 10 handwritten notes go out every week? The 4 coffee or lunches. Maybe I decide that Thursday is going to be, I'm going to block out every Thursday from 11 to 1 to schedule lunch. I don't care who it is, but that's going on my calendar from now until next December. And it might have to move, but at least I've got it on there. There, I put in your workbook kind of a big sheet that looks like this. This is not your daily or weekly stuff. This is as you start breaking down your tactics, if there's stuff that needs to be done on a monthly basis, or it might be invested in a CRM, or deploy a certain system, I want you to use the monthly to set timelines for yourself on when you want to have this stuff done. And it might be by January 1st of, in 2.5 weeks. There is a tab. We don't have time to go through it. I will show it to you really quick at the end if we do have time. But there is a tab on your spreadsheet that helps you manage. I'll just show it to you real quick. We've got time, and I think we've talked a lot about systems, processes. It's important to look at. But as we start talking about time management, this might be a tool that you want to use to start helping break down what you need to be doing on a weekly basis. So this is called 168 hours. Anybody know why it's called 168 hours?
Week.
That's how many hours you have in a week. That's it. That's all you get.
Break it down from there.
Then you start breaking it down. So the top portion of this, there's a tab on your spreadsheet. The last tab is 168 hours. It's the name of the tab. Make sure it's going to pull over. Remember that section that we filled out in the spreadsheet that said how many weeks am I going to work? It pulls it over into here. So if I change that over there, it's going to pull it over to here and calculate everything based on how many weeks I plan to work. The blue stuff is what you're going to fill in. This top section is an ideal day for you. This is daily. How many hours am I spending on lead generation? That is not buying zip codes. Lead generation is making phone calls. It's my handwritten notes. It's my phone calls to 5 clients to make sure that that lunch appointment is set for next Thursday. That's a lead generation. How many hours a day is it reasonable for me to say that I'm going to do that? It's probably not going to be 8. Again, we've got to make these realistic. Administrative tasks. Handing in contracts. Updating my CRM, which is no fun. Running earnings deposits around. Administrative stuff. And then time working on my business. I could be out showing. If I'm an agent that attends all my inspections, I could put that in there.
Remember, there were only 168 hours a week.
Yes, only. Well, you start breaking it down daily and it's like, oh, wait a minute. I can't do everything that I've got to start saying no to some stuff. These over here are going to calculate, don't pay attention to these. You'll end up going down a rabbit hole and confusing yourself. The next section down, this is not per day. This is total. So when I have a listing appointment, how much time does it take me to do to prep for the listing appointment, my travel time, and then my time with my seller? If I'm doing a 2-step process and I'm going by, if I'm dropping a pre-listing packet off, I'm going back to do a walkthrough, back a 3rd time to do the full boat with them. Count all of that time it takes you on a listing appointment. Buyer consultation. How long does that take you to pull that together when you're meeting with a buyer? Bring them in the office for the first time, which we should all do, not meet strange people at houses. How much time do I spend servicing my listings? Am I sending them a weekly update? Am I calling them on a weekly basis, or is it a daily basis? How much time am I spending average per listing on my communication with them and doing the marketing for them? That might be something I outsource. Or as I do this, that might be something I need to outsource. I don't have enough time to do it. How much time on average do I spend touring and servicing per buyer? This is gonna vary drastically. This is gonna be a very strong average. There are some buyers that you worked with for 6 months. They're not the norm. There are other buyers that you take out, they call you, they've got the house picked out, they're ready to go. Might be 2 hours out touring with them versus 25 with somebody else. Time negotiating per contract. Time per inspection. You're an agent that goes to all of your inspections, and you've got an inspector that takes 5 hours, put probably 6 hours in there, because your travel time. Time maintaining your pendings. Your time for closing. And then time you devote per client post-close. Those are follow-up calls, follow-up conversations. All of that's going to calculate for you into how many hours. If this is what I'm estimating, here's how many hours I'm probably going to be working every week based on what my transaction goal is. Remember when we put in, I want to do 70% of listings next year and 30% buyers? That's all being calculated magically in here. Because the time that you're spending on sellers, different than the time you're spending on buyers, and it's all coming over into this spreadsheet. Rick?
This is all in sheets, right?
It's Excel or sheets, it depends on how you download it.
Okay, so the way I understand it, but you can create different ones and just label them different. You don't have to, and they'll all do the same thing, is that correct?
Label.
So if I wanted to do a 40-hour week, or if I wanted to do a 30-hour week.
Yeah, you can
have multiple, so if somebody wanted to
play with it.
Change it.
Yeah.
You don't have to change just one, so you're always bouncing back and forth.
No, you could have multiple ones saved. What about your personal stuff? We all have lives. You have to factor that in. Are you I have to have 9 hours of sleep person, or are you good on 4? Put that in here. Meal time. Are you home every night for dinner, cooking, feeding the family, cleaning up? Or are you driving through a drive-through on your way to a listing appointment? Put the amount of time you spend on meals. This gets detailed. Personal prep grooming time. If I know it takes me 47 minutes to get ready in the morning, that's what I'm going to put in, because that's time out of my day. Community involvement time. If I'm sitting in 5 meetings a week and they're usually an hour apiece, I'm going to count for that. Fitness activity time. I'm also calculating into that time the amount of time it takes me to drive to the gym and drive home. As you get down here to community involvement, this then tells you how many, you can then adjust how many days per week. Obviously you're sleeping every day, I hope. I hope you're eating every day, and I hope you're showering every day. Sometimes it's questionable, I know. Down here, as you get further down, community involvement, fitness, these items, you can then say how many days a week. So if my goal next year, I know that I work out 5 times a week, and it takes me 2 hours start to finish, I'm going to put 2 hours there, and I do it 5 days a week. If I spend an hour at church every week, I'm going to put in 1 hour and then 1 hour on days per week. How about this one? Family time, me time. That's not family time with your nose buried in your computer writing a contract. That is how much family time are you spending, or what is your goal? I would start down here, then go back up top. This number will turn red on you. That's when you know you're in trouble. If you don't know these numbers, track yourself for a couple weeks. Jot down approximately how much time you're spending in these general categories.
Can you
in
do
these
like
areas.
1.5 or no?
I think so. I think it'll take decimals. Let's see. Yep.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. And there we go, I turned red.
Can it change for the time of year? Because we all know December's a lot different than May.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And that's one of the things Rick was saying. You can have multiples of these.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This will then help you as you go in and start time blocking, figuring out what activities you need to be focused on to hit your goals for the year based on what you put into the financial plan. I have a sheet in your workbook to help you finish and put all of this into your workbook, transfer it from here into your workbook. I'm gonna skip that. Systems and processes. We really talked a lot about this throughout today, talking about CRMs, talking about processes to track your financials, to track your business. I will send you all a spreadsheet that I use to track business. Some of you I know use the Ninja Tracker to track business. Some of you might have some other tools. This will make, if you do this in 19, it'll make doing this process much easier next year because you're not gonna have to spend 3 days trying to figure out what the heck you did last year. Where your business came from, how many transactions you had, you'll know that. You should know that. You should be tracking that. The other thing on here that I'll note real quick is what tools and technologies are available to you that you may not be using. Is that newsletter in the greenhouse something that you maybe need to take advantage of or check out to help hit those tactics? Couple steps on here just to help you stay on course. Couple reminders as you go through this process. Be accountable. How many of you have accountability partners? How many of you think that it would, yeah, okay. Yes, you guys have one. Kind of built in, it was part of the till death do you part. If you don't have an accountability partner and you want one, if there are enough people from this group that say, yes, I want somebody to help keep me on track as I go through this, email me and I will start matching you up and we can do accountability groups within this group. If you want to go seek one, I strongly recommend you get one. If the only person that you are being accountable to is yourself, you're going to set yourself up probably for failure because it's really easy to say, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. Then all of a sudden it's June and you've done nothing. When you have somebody that's holding you accountable, much better rate of success. Much better rate of success. Forgive yourself. Don't throw out the entire plan because you had an off week or you had an off month. Remember, things are going to distract us. Things are going to come up. You're going to get sidetracked. Practice the art of self-forgiveness. Go back, get yourself recentered, and get back on track. Follow your path of least resistance. When in doubt, go back to what you do best. Go back to those strengths. Go back to what you know works. If you're trying to do something new, if you've never done open houses, and you want to start doing open houses next year, and you do 4 or 5 of them, and you're like, I hate this. Don't force yourself to do it. Come up with something else that you can do to generate the leads or generate the activity you were trying to from the open house. Go back to what you're comfortable with. It doesn't mean sit in your comfort zone and put blinders on, but go back to what's working. Focus on the money makers, i.e. we're anti-shiny objects. Focus on the things that are going to make you money. It's probably why we're all here. And then practice time management skills. Allocate your time wisely. I know that every business planning, the Ninja programs, the Buffini programs, every sales program harps and harps and harps on time management and time blocking, and there are very few people that actually do it. Start small. Start small with it. And then grow from there, and you'll realize how much more productive you will be and easier it is to stay on track when you actually plan out your day and your week. That's it. We've gone through your 7 steps. I know we're running over on time. Your homework now is on you. Unless you get an accountability partner, or you want to get back together with me and go through some challenges and goal setting. As you go through and set these goals, if you get stuck, talk to each other. Ask your peers, how did you do this? I'm stuck on this, do you have any ideas for me? Use each other. That's what makes these offices, our company so great, is that we're not the cutthroat Shark Tank. Use each other, collaborate with each other as you go through this. You'll find that your pain points are probably very similar to many of the people in this room. Yes.
One of my favorite words is on had to do with forgive yourself. Is like next. Okay, what's next?
Next. Gonna leave that behind, not gonna dwell on it.
Next.
Move on. Move on. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.